Here with you here on Monday morning because I know tomorrow is a bank holiday, so I'm excited about that. Had a very nice weekend and plenty to talk about today. Nice to relax Monday morning coffee with me, James O Reilly. I'm going to be helping you with your business English today. And what have we got in store for you? Well, we're going to look at what's happening in the news. We're going to be looking at quiet quitting, which is in the news a lot lately in relation to working. We're going to be looking at tipping, propinas, tipping in different countries, and what is the etiquette in those countries. So, apart from that, I'm going to finish off the animal idioms that we had, and then we'll just look at some other things. Nice, relaxing Monday. We're not going to do too much that is too intensive for you. First things first, coffee time. We all need our Monday morning coffee. Come on. Excellent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the earth now in a second. That's behind me in the background. And remember, I'm doing this with LK Formación, tailor-made solutions for your business, lkformacion.com, as you can see above. And I'm going to now move across, and I'm going to just get this ready for you. What's been going on this morning in the news while we were sleeping. And give me a chance here. It's Monday, so I'm a bit slow today. I'm going to turn this off here. Right, in the background, as you can see, let's see what was happening. Let's jump in. Unfortunate, terrible tragedy in India. We're going to look at Somalia. Dover, Malcolm X, news of the night. Okay, a bridge collapses and kills 130 people in India early Sunday evening. Around 500 people were on the Morbi suspension bridge in the west of the country of India, and they were taking part in a religious festival. The cables then gave way, which is to release, to snap, and the structure collapsed, tipping into the water. The death toll or death number is at least 130, according to the authorities. The bridge, built 150 years ago, has become a tourist attraction, says NDTV. It has just reopened a few days ago after 7 months of renovation. I'm deeply saddened by the tragedy of Morbi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on his Twitter account, promising that all necessary assistance will be given to the victims. And this is as well coming after the terrible tragedy again in South Korea, where there was a crush, where people were forced together, a crush, and around 150 people killed there as well. More bad news, I'm afraid. Somalia, 100 dead in a double car bomb attack. The attack took place on Saturday at a busy intersection in Mogadishu. On Sunday, Yusuf Hussein Jamali Madale, the mayor of the capital, communicated a death toll of 104. The elected official also denounced the hospitals which would have charged for blood tests to those who wished to donate their blood to help victims. That's very strange. Denounced hospitals which charged for blood tests. Okay, so if you were giving and you were trying to help at the hospital, they were charging you money. You had to pay money to check to see what your blood type was. Even if the government had pointed out the responsibilities of the Shababs, no one has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. Generally, when there is an attack in Somalia, there is it's generally Al-Shabaab, generally, but they have not said it was them. Moving on, a migrant reception centre attacked in Dover in the UK. It's generally the port going to France or going to the continent. Dover is the main port in the UK. Sunday, shortly after 11 a.m., a man threw 2 or 3 incendiary devices at the premises managed by the Immigration Services. 2 people suffered minor injuries, according to the Times. Citing witnesses, the individual, White, smiled when throwing his homemade bomb. So it was a white man, well, yes, a white male. He would have arrived by car from another part of England. The police quickly found him dead at a nearby gas station. Gas station, also known as a petrol station in the UK. He would have ended his life. More than 1,000 migrants crossed the English channels in small boats over the weekend. It's something that is not stopping. There are many, many migrants constantly crossing the English Channel in search for a better life in the UK. And finally, 36 million for those wrongly accused of the assassination of Malcolm X. Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam spent more than 20 years in prison for the murder of the African American leader in February of 1965. Last year, a judge in Manhattan overturned their conviction. So if you have a trial and you have you go to prison, or you have a result, to overturn the result to overturn the result is to say that's wrong and we're going to go the other way. So the result was overturned. A third defendant has assured that Aziz and Islam were not involved. The case was based on inconsistent testimony, and the 2 men had an alibi. An alibi, I'm not quite sure if it's similar in your own language, but an alibi is somebody who can say, I know where the person was, they were with me, I'm innocent, obviously, and I know that that person was in a certain place at a certain time and is not guilty. New York City agreed to pay 26 million and New York State 10 million to settle a lawsuit out of court. The sum will be shared equally between Mr. Aziz, 84, and the family of Mr. Islam, who died in 2009. It's terribly sad. To be convicted of something, it's like a worst nightmare situation for people. Convicted of something you didn't do and you're left in jail. That's shocking. Right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to jump over and we're going to look at the 10 most common misspellings on CVs. Okay, a lot of you are doing CVs, you're on LinkedIn, you are trying to find a new job. Well, here in the English world are the 10 most common misspellings on CVs, including experienced and successful, the 10 overused words to avoid. So we'll be looking at a few different things in this article. Getting your CV right is the key to finding a job, but spelling is letting people down. To let people down is to disappoint. Many employers will chuck a CV in the bin if there are misspellings on it. I'm sure it's the same in most different countries. If you misspell words, you would be seen as a bit unreliable. Focused and professional were some of the most common misspellings. If you come from a language like Spanish or Italian, it's a transparent language, Portuguese as well. It is spelt as it's spoken, whereas English is a bit crazy and you just have to learn the spellings of the words. And that is, so if you get a spelling wrong, it's more or less considered that educated people should know how words are spelt. They should remember how words are spelt. You should have spell check now on your computer, so it's kind of lazy in this sense. But so for that reason, making spelling mistakes, while it's understandable, when I do classes with my students, I'll often get confused about spellings that I don't spell often. It's very common. Whereas if I were in writing an email, the spell check would help me. But when I'm in a class, it's very common to forget. Is it a C? Is it an S? That kind of thing. 1 L, 2 L's. It makes absolutely no difference to the pronunciation. So, but on your CV, you need to get these things right. And the common misspelled words here we can see. Number 1 is experienced. And commonly misspelled EXPERIENCED when it's EXPERIENCED. I'm going to spell these words because there are a lot of words that are commonly misspelled, or I wouldn't say misspelled, common vowels that you guys misunderstand. You know, but you forget. So I'm going to say generally A-E-I-O-U. I'm going to spell the word and hopefully help you in this way. So successful is the correct pronunciation here, and it is commonly misspelt S-U-C-E-S-S-F-U-L. Successful, when it should have two C's and two S's. The next one is counseled, which is the correct spelling is C-O-U-N-S-E-L-L-E-D. But when you pronounce it, it's pronounced exactly like this, cancelled. C-O-U-N-S-I-L-L-E-D. Moving on to number 4, professional. And here we have two S's, and it's commonly spelt with one S. Professional, P-R-O-F-E-S-S-I-O-N-A-L. That is the correct spelling. Next is responsible. Yes. As you can see, Sybil and Sybil, you can understand. R-E-S-P-O-N-S-I-B-L-E. Now, we have behavior and behavior. I thought in the United States it was spelt like this. Anyway, in the UK, behavior is spelt B-E-H-A-V-I-O-U-R. And I believe in the United States it is spelt this way, B-E-H-A-V-I-O-R. I need to double check that, because that is correct spelling in the United States. Let me double check on word reference. Free dictionary. I recommend having a free dictionary. Yes. So both of these spellings are correct for number 6, whereas the one on the left here is the UK spelling, and the one on the right is the United States spelling. That is one of the main differences between English from the UK and English from the United States. It's just spelling differences. The US going towards a more transparent way, a bit more like Spanish, just making it less complicated, whereas the UK is maintaining its kind of more complicated spelling from before. Okay, next, number 7 is judgment. Okay, and here we have an E, J-U-D-G-E-M-E-N-T, and often people just making a J sound. Okay, dropping the E, judgment. Number 8, focused. Yes, I can understand that you might think there are two S's, but it's F-O-C-U-S-E-D, focused. It doesn't have two S's. Number 9 is achieved, A-C-H-I-E-V-E-D. Okay, people getting confused and spelling it without the I. And then the last one I can't really see. If I go back, if it will let me go back. No. Okay, it's kind of stuck there. How can I get back? Okay, well, we're going to have to leave that for the moment until I can fix it. And I'll just make sure it's showing up on your screen. Okay, jolly good. And what I'll do is instead, I'm going to look at something else that, because my computer screen is stuck on this, unless I can fix it in the next few seconds. No, it's stuck. We'll just move on to the next thing. A woman was annoyed. This is, I want to talk to you guys about tipping etiquette. Tipping is when propinas, when you are in a place. How do you guys tip in the different countries? Okay, so we're going to look at tipping in English-speaking countries, how you should do it. So a woman sparks debate about tipping after asking for 10% charge to be taken off her bill, despite good service, as some brand her mean, but others argue the customer should get to decide. So what happened in this case was a woman. She had a meal with some friends. They charged her, the price of the meal with everything included was £230 or perhaps $230, depending if she were in the United Kingdom or in the United States. Now, the restaurant charged her a 10% tip. So it was like, don't worry, you don't need to decide. We will decide for you, 10%. How do you guys feel? Do you think she asked for the tip to be removed? The waiter said, we have put the 10%, but if you want, you can remove it. So what happened in the end was she removed it. It seems that the restaurant got a bit annoyed at this, and in the end, she ended up not tipping at all. So what do you guys think? What is it like where you live? Should you be free to choose how much you want to tip, or do you agree that 10% should be added on? And I also want to look at tipping etiquette in different countries, because I am from Europe, and when you go to the United States, I believe they have quite a different tipping etiquette over there, and also living here in Spain, there is a different tipping etiquette. We are going to look at the different countries. So let's just see if we have any extra information. It was exactly what I told you. Some people, let's see what some people said. Some people believe it's fairly standard nowadays. When it's fairly standard, we have a comment here from Love Me Long Time, and it says, it's fairly standard nowadays, but yes, I agree, it always annoys me, and I have sometimes asked for it to be removed. I want to decide what to tip, not to have it automatically put on the bill. This person wants to decide. Coffee time, morning coffee with James O Reilly. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 8:30 to 9:30. What did this person say? The next person said, I find it appalling. I find it terrible that people who are happy to spend £230 on a meal begrudge someone on minimum wage a tip for good service. This person is saying, if you are spending £230 on a meal, you shouldn't feel bad giving your tip of £23 to someone who has given you that good service. It's pretty disgusting that you decided not to tip on the basis of something that the waitress had no control over when she had given you good service. So in the end, you still should have tipped the waitress, even though you were annoyed at the establishment. I'm guessing that you were in the fortunate position of never having had to work for minimum wage in the hospitality industry. So this person is accusing this person as you don't know what it's like for those people working as waiters, working in that industry. The hospitality industry was a very, very, very big industry here in this country, and accusing the person of being mean. Finally here, someone said, I'm impressed she actually brought it up and gave the option of removal. Usually they're just presented to you. So what happened in this situation is the waiter, and I won't say waitress, okay, we'll try and make it neutral. The waiter, who is a woman in this case, gave them the bill, and she said there is a 10% tip on this included. You can remove it if you want. And what happened is the customer said, I want it removed. I don't want you doing this to me. I should be able to choose. But so, and then it all got a bit messy from there. Here, someone else said, it's standard to add it, but if you can ask them to you can ask them to remove it if you want. It's been like that for at least 20 years in most decent restaurants. Yeah, it's been around for a while. They add it, you can ask them to remove it, and then you can choose what you want to tip. Okay, let's look at tipping culture in the different countries. So over here it has tipping by country. So it says America, like I told you many times before, America is the English world's word for the United States. Perhaps it's slowly changing and it's a bit ignorant because, of course, there is North America, Central America, and South America. But in the English world, America is the United States. and each other country is referred to by its name. So Costa Rica, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, it's all referred to by their names, even Canada. So tipping in America. Tipping is an important part of American culture. People in the service industry are typically paid below minimum wage, so they rely on tips as a large part of their income. In America, tips are always calculated as a percentage of the bill before tax. It usually follows these rules: 10% tip if you're unsatisfied, 15% if it was okay, 20% for excellent service, and 25% for outstanding service. In many restaurants, the waiter is required to give part of their tips to the bartender, busboy, hostess, and food runners. They are required to pay income tax on their tips. Tips aren't extra, they are part of their wage. It's always best to tip in cash when you can and directly to the person who provided the service. So, it's a very, very important thing for those of you who have been to the United States. I haven't been there yet, but it is one thing I am aware of, that in the United States, the tipping culture is very, very important because it's part of people's wages. So hotels in America, how do you tip there? You should give $1 or $2 tip to the hotel doorman who got you a cab for you, or brought your car, or if someone brings your car from the valet. The porters should be tipped $1 or $2 per bag. Housekeeping, the people who do your room and so on, $2 to $3 per night. The concierge or hotel porter will not expect a tip, but will be appreciated for difficult requests. The norm is $5 per request. And also, don't forget to leave room service waiter a 15% tip. Comparing tipping, America is definitely a tipping country. In other countries like France or Scotland, it isn't such a big deal not to leave a tip. But in the United States or the US, non-tippers are considered cheap, tacaños, tight. Not leaving a tip is like an insult to an American, and it's a sign of disrespect. So you should definitely leave a tip. How much tip depends on the quality of the service you have received. Remember, in general, 10% signifies that you were not satisfied, whereas 25% signifies that you are very satisfied. So when you're not satisfied, it's not going well, you still leave 10%. That's the minimum. Bars. Okay, into the interesting part here. Okay, in bars, tip 10 to 25%. Tipping in bars and cafes in the United States is incredibly common, and everyone looks forward to scoring a nice tip. So, when visiting a bar or cafe, make sure you always tip the bartender at least $1 for the first drink. If you like the service and feel generous enough, you can continue giving a tip of $1 for each drink purchased. So, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and someone said, from the United States, they said, I always tip $5 on the first drink, and that way I know the bartender will always take care of me when there's a queue at the bar. They go, oh, that's the person who tipped $5. I'll go to him or her first. That's a tip. A tip is also an idea in English, like a pista or like a trick. So as well as a propina. Okay, let me see what else it says here. So much so that if you keep tipping well and consistently at bars and pubs, you may also receive a drink on the house. A free drink on the house means free, sometimes known as comp or buyback. Some bartenders still use the old school signal of leaving a shot upside down glass near your spot at the bar. Turn the shot glass over and enjoy the free drink. However, don't forget to tip on the comp, as the drink may be free, but the labor isn't. Okay, so it's very interesting in these different countries. I noticed when I was working in, so from Dublin, Ireland, and tipping wasn't very common. To tip the barman, that wasn't common. They had a salary, or the barman. I'll use it for men and women. But when I was working during university in the UK, it was very common for customers to say, have one for yourself. So the drink, you wouldn't drink it for yourself, but you would take the money as a tip, and then later, that was their style of saying, have a drink for yourself later. So you would take the money for the drink. And that they were, I found in the UK, they were very generous with this, very generous at tipping, even though it wasn't considered normal like in the United States where it's expected. Spas, okay, we won't go to that. Hairdressers, 15 to 20% for a haircut or any other treatment. 10 to 20% tip is usually perfect. Okay, 15 to 20 or 10 to 20. But do make sure to ask if the tip has been included. Okay, like in the restaurant we had, if it's already included, obviously you won't tip. As some hairdressers do include a gratuity. Okay, this gratuity, okay. Restaurants, 10 to 25%. Taxi driver, 10 to 15%. Often what we had is the idea of, perhaps in the UK as well, rounding up. In America, it's customary to tip your driver 10 to 15% of the overall fare. So, okay, if it comes to $10, you'll tip $1.50 or something like that, or €1 or $1, and you can throw in a few extra bucks. If you have a guide, 15 to 20%. So it is definitely a generous tipping culture. Okay, let's move over onto the UK, United Kingdom. Tipping in the United Kingdom isn't a big part of the culture, unlike in North America, where the waiters are paid below minimum wage. Tips will usually be appreciated, but for some services, offering a tip may create confusion. Okay. In the UK, tip mostly at high-end hotels. So at high-end hotels, you're going to tip. Perhaps similar to what we were talking about in the United States hotels, you'll tip. In restaurants, tip 10% for good service. That lady that was complaining was tipped 10% in her case. She should be expected to tip it, but they took it. At restaurants in the UK, a tip of around 10% is expected if you order at your table. A service charge or optional charge may be included, so check your bill. This lady was not expecting it to be on her bill, but it was. So it is quite common to do that on the bill. So just check that 10% could be on your bill. If it's on your bill, you don't need to tip. Food in the UK over here. The United Kingdom is home to many famous chefs and many famous restaurants. Although London holds many, there is delicious food to be discovered all over the country, correct? There are British classics to try. Fish and chips or sticky toffee pudding are a must, but there are many other culinary delights inspired from cultural cuisine all around the world. The most popular food in the UK, surprisingly, perhaps for you guys, is Indian food, because of the many Indians came over in around the 1950s. From that point on, wonderful food, and it has gradually gone into the mainstream culture. I would say while there's some nice food in the UK, the culture is not like perhaps in Spain, where you have a really fantastic food culture. So the Indian food culture right now, honestly, is the number one food culture in the United Kingdom. Believe it or not. It is the most popular food in the United Kingdom. So British people can actually tolerate spiciness in food. And while I mention that, I often think that people who come from the United Kingdom or other parts of the world, perhaps, maybe get confused with Spain, and we expect the food in this country to be spicy. I don't know, as like maybe associate hot countries with spicy food, but we're quite surprised when the food here is not spicy. In a spa, don't tip. Okay, unlike many places in the world, tipping in a spa in the United Kingdom, where you get your massages and you get your bath done, is not expected. Mm, Spa etiquette in the UK is quite simple. Follow the instructions on how much clothes to take off. If you don't know, ask. Okay, we're talking about steam rooms, saunas, massages, this type of spa. Don't talk loudly. Minimize the amount of time you are naked while changing. Okay, interesting. Okay. I remember one time I went in Germany, and it's a very big spa culture in that country where everyone walks around just naked. It was quite shocking for someone from over the UK direction. Um, Tour guide, £2 to £4. Taxi driver, round up. Okay, so when you take a taxi, it's customary to simply round up to the nearest pound. So leave £7 for a cab fare of £6.30. So you round up. You go to the biggest round number. You round up. Round down would be to round down to £6. All right, let's go. That's the UK. Let's have a look at Australia as another English-speaking country, a different part of the world. Over here. Tipping in Australia is not customary. Workers in tourism generally make a sufficient income and do not depend on gratuities left by tourists. However, it always depends on the situation. If you feel that the service was exceptional, it's good etiquette to leave a small tip, but know that this will not be expected. In Australia, don't tip at hotels. The general Aussie attitude is that service staff are paid adequately, and as such, tipping is not common. So, interesting. Let me go down. Restaurants in Australia, tips are not expected. You should never feel obliged to leave a tip. Okay, before leaving a tip, you should see if there is a service charge, and it should be clearly marked on your bill. Spas, don't tip. Tour guide, don't tip. Taxi driver, don't tip. Your hairdresser, don't tip. So in Australia, everything, the salary covers everything. Interesting. In Australia, let's take another English-speaking country. So tipping is not expected in Australia. Let's take a look at where I'm from, in Ireland. Generally, it's good etiquette to tip in Ireland. Even so, you should never feel obligated, especially if you receive bad service. How large a gratuity you should leave depends on the service and how happy you were. The guide, okay. Hotels, €1 to €2. Generally, you'll give your porter €5, 1 to 2 per night. Okay, similar to the UK. Restaurants, 10 to 15%. Spas, 10%. A tour guide, 10%. And a taxi driver, don't tip. Hairdresser, tip. I would agree with that. The taxi driver, generally, I would round up. I think a lot of people do. Tipping taxi drivers is not required. However, most people will round up to the nearest euro, yeah. Typically, a tip will range between 1 to €10 and is always appreciated. Yeah, it's always appreciated. Not expected, but appreciated. Okay, let's jump over and pick another English-speaking country. Let's go for Canada. Right beside the United States. Do they have the same tipping culture? Canada, like the USA, has a strong culture of tipping. It's usually good tipping etiquette to leave a gratuity, which is a tip, and how much you leave will signify to the person who served you how good you thought the service was. Service should be good in Canada, so expect to tip. The tipping guide for Canada explains. Okay. Hotels, $2 to $20. Okay. Restaurants, 15 to 20%. Spas, 10%. Tour guide, 10 to 15. Taxi driver, 10%. and your hairdresser 10%. Okay, so it's a tipping culture over there. And finally, we will look at, where shall we go? I'm thinking about, well, there is a country also where they speak English a lot, so I'm going to look at South Africa. South Africa. South Africa is a country where you can visit any type of terrain you wish, from beautiful sandy beaches to mountainous regions. There's more to the country than famous Cape Town. Hiking is quite common. Okay, let's jump to it. Restaurants, 10 to 15%. Hotels, 10 to 15 rand. So, okay, 10% to your tour guide. Don't tip in spas. 10% to your taxi driver, and 10 to 15% to your hairdresser. Another country, sorry, I want to look at is Jamaica. Speak English in Jamaica. $1 to $25 in the hotel. Is it a big tipping culture? Most popular, most people are drawn, okay, although US money, okay. Typically, also, consider the fact that most locals won't tip in Jamaica. It's only the touristy areas where tips are commonplace. So it's tourist areas that tip. A restaurant, 0 to 20. Okay. So taxi driver don't tip, your hairdresser don't tip. Generally, the local people don't tip. Okay, so it's very interesting here in Spain. You seem to leave the little bit of change. If you guys, anyone looking in South America, here in Spain, generally the small change which is left on the tray, it's a little tray, bandeja, where that you have your receipt, and you probably just leave the rest. In a restaurant, I assume it's normal to leave a good tip for good service. But generally in this country, I don't feel pressure to tip. It's tip for good service. If you want to tip, you tip. If you don't, you don't. But it seems to be covered by a salary. But there doesn't seem to be a strong feeling of needing to tip, because I think as well here in this country, we're outside all the time. So we're spending money outside quite often. Right, that was that. What I wanted to look at. We'll go here later. It's about, but I want to finish off these animal idioms. Remember, it's morning coffee with me, James O Reilly, and in association with Elica Formación Consultoria. And let me see, I was going to look at the animal idioms, which sounds a bit strange, but they are actually used a lot in English, and I have them just here. Give me 1 second. It's Monday. It's coffee morning with me, and tomorrow we've got a day off, so it's all good. Okay, where am I? Is it this one? No. I had it earlier on. Where is it gone? Here it is. Right at the top. Okay. Right, so we have one here which is... actually, can I get this on too? No. I'm just going to tell you guys. So, animal idioms, here we go. The next one is, look at what the cat dragged in. It's a bit long. Look what the cat dragged in. So if you can imagine, you know the way if you've had a cat before, especially perhaps if you live in the countryside, and then the cat comes in with something in its mouth, looking at you like this. Generally what the cat is doing is carrying in a dead animal, like a bird or a mouse or something, and it's kind of offering you, like, look what I did, and we're like, oh no, get out of here with that dead animal, get out. But really, when we often will joke, I say it often, it's when somebody comes in, I'll tell you what it is here. Something you say when somebody arrives looking dirty, disheveled, It's a bit messy. Or as they have been in a fight. It can also be used as a remark for when someone new arrives in a room or area. Example, here she is, look what the cat dragged in. I use it in this friendly sense. It's generally when someone comes in and they look bad, oh, look what the cat dragged in. But use it in a friendly way. It's like, oh, look what the cat dragged in, you know, and it's kind of like a friendly insult. It's a nice one to say. Look what the cat dragged. To drag is arrastrar. And we say, look what the cat dragged in. It's a nice one to use with your friends when someone enters the room. Next one is number 14 in this case, one trick pony. A one trick pony. Can you guess what that might be? A one trick pony? I'm going to enlarge myself here. Well, when someone or something has only one talent or job they can perform well. Using this idiom is quite negative and implies that the person doesn't really have much else to offer. Example, he's good at scoring goals but terrible playing anywhere else on the field. He's a one-trick pony. I was going to say exactly the same when we talk about footballers. They're generally only good at one thing. We'll just say he's a one-trick pony or she's a one-trick pony. So that's a one person is only good at doing one thing. Next one, plenty of fish in the sea. This idiom is used in relation to failed relationships, that there are plenty of other potential partners out there. So don't be upset about getting away. If you break up in a relationship, if your friend does, don't worry, come on, there's plenty of fish in the sea. I'm sure there is something similar in your language. Don't worry about him. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Okay, at the time, it doesn't generally make the person feel better, but it's something you say to try and make your friend feel better. Okay, the next one is a really great one. It's in relation to business and working in business, and not only, but here we go. Rat race. Rat race, very commonly used. A rat race is when you have an exhausting and repetitive routine. Does that ring a bell with anybody? It can relate to fierce competition for success or wealth, used primarily when referring to work situations. I've always wanted to be an accountant, but I don't want to be part of this rat race anymore. So this person is an accountant. They're trying to live in London. They're trying to work and get to one of the best companies. They're involved in working late at night, doing lots of work. They're trying to live in a good neighborhood. They're trying to get better in their lives. They're involved. Everybody else is doing this. They are involved in the rat race, and people get tired of the rat race. In many different countries, all over the world, perhaps you could perhaps feel this yourself. It's a very common expression. It is a true situation. The rat race. Okay. Roadhog. Roadhog. Hog is kind of like a pig. Normally used to describe a dangerous driver or someone who takes over the road driving recklessly. Example, Philip is a serious roadhog. He was banned for driving for 6 months. A roadhog for me generally is someone who takes up space. They're hogging. To hog is to take. So they're taking space on the road. A roadhog. Next one, the straw that broke the camel's back. I think you have something like the drop of water that made the jug overflow. You have just one more drop and the jug overflows with water. We have in English the expression the straw, which is pajita, or like that animals lie on when they sleep. The straw that broke the camel's back. It's too heavy for the camel. A small issue that becomes the final cause of a system, business, or a person to fail or give up. It closely relates to the idiom the last straw and are used interchangeably. Let me give you a business example. The company wasn't doing too well anyway, but when the final sales figures came through, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the final part. It's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. We can't do the straw that broke the camel's back, or the final straw. Very commonly used. Two more. Until the cows come home. Used to describe that you can do something for a long time. It can also be used when attempting activities that seem futile or a waste of time. It is usually shortened to till the cows come home. Here's an example. She keeps mopping the floor when people keep walking through. She'll be cleaning it till the cows come home. So people will keep coming through. You'll keep mopping. They'll keep coming through. You'll just keep going on and on and on. So or you could say, oh, he can talk until the cows come home, or we'll be here until the cows come home. It means a very long time. We could just stay here forever. So a useful expression, and it is, in a sense, what would happen is, in a farming respect, you would bring the cows out early in the morning to the field to eat the grass, and then in the evening the cows, either you would bring them home late in the evening to go and sleep, or they would come back themselves. They knew to come back themselves, and they would be walking in a line, relaxed like the cows, and the cows would come home in the evening. So they are out a long time and they come home in the evening. Before I forget, the evening in English is around 6 o'clock to the night time. Okay, the afternoon is I would say the afternoon is working hours. Working hours generally stop around 6. So when you talk, I was discussing this, talking, not arguing. Discussing means talking. I was discussing this with my friend yesterday, and we were saying, okay, talking about the difference between Spain and the UK in this respect. Morning is until 12 o'clock, afternoon from 12 o'clock, basically working hours until 6 o'clock. After 6, it's the evening. So if you say, I'll call you in the afternoon, it should be working hours. And remember, working hours often are less than in Spain. People work late in Spain. Last one. Top dog. Top dog. The most important person in a group or company. An example, Michael was top dog when he became the captain of the football team. Okay? He's the most important, the most important person in a group or company. Okay, so there you go. Some useful animal expressions. I'll repeat them from time to time, so because of course you'll forget, and then you'll remember and you'll forget. That's how we're going to do it. Okay, we're into the last 10 minutes of morning coffee with me, James O Reilly. As you can see, helping you with news, vocabulary, pronunciation, expressions, all different types of things. I hope it's useful for you. I'm here to help you guys with your English, and if you stick with it, stick with me for during the year, you are going to improve. It's impossible not to. I will make you improve. I'm here to help. Okay, let me just find my last article for you, and this was about quiet quitting. I want to get into. So I found, yes. Let me go over here, and I am going to show you what quiet quitting is. But first, I need to make myself smaller so you can see. There I go. Okay, so what is quiet quitting? Quiet quitting, in a nutshell, so basically, quiet quitting is about rejecting the notion that work has to take over one's life and that employees should go above and beyond what their job description entails. So according to Metro, this can take many forms, including turning down projects based on interest, refusing to answer work messages outside of working hours, or simply feeling less invested in the role. So what I have for you is I have a video that I want you to look at. It's very short. Pay attention, and we're going to quickly. This is one of the first videos that somebody put on on TikTok to explain what quiet quitting is.
I recently learned about this term called quiet quitting, where you're not out job, but you're quitting the idea of going above and beyond. You're still performing your duties, but you're no longer subscribing to the hustle culture mentality that work has to be your life. The reality is it's not, and your worth as a person is not defined by your labor.
Okay, that was very quick, probably difficult to understand. What the person is saying is that you are not expected to go above and beyond what you're supposed to do in work anyway. You're going to do your work, but you're not going to take on extra activities. You're not going to work longer hours. You're not going to do more than what is expected of you. It has kind of a negative sound, but to be honest, it's it's just doing what you're supposed to do, and a lot of people often are doing more than they're supposed to do, and they feel I need to do this. But there is a community now, and it's called quiet quitting, where you just are saying, no, I do my work, I do my output, I get it done, I am productive, and I'm not going to do more. It's in the news a lot lately. Would be interesting to know what you guys think, if you agree. Is it laziness, or is it people standing up for their rights? Because it seems that from the pandemic, people working from home, their personal life and their work life has become interchangeable. Emails being sent at all different times, WhatsApps, you're expected to answer. Oh, we're going to have this in the morning, could you have that ready? So people are getting fed up, hartos. They're getting fed up with this, and they're like, okay, when it comes to a certain time, I'm switching off. How do you feel about that? What do you think? Do you agree? Let's have a look at what it says here. This is something about taking micro breaks. Quiet quitting is a trend that has taken over TikTok in recent weeks. A new study suggests that the trend might actually make employees better at their jobs. So micro breaks they talk about found that taking micro breaks can boost energy and reduce fatigue at work. So taking a micro break would be taking 5 minutes away to have a quick coffee, maybe closing your eyes for 5 minutes, listening to a song, making a quick phone call to some family member, and then getting back to work. While micro breaks did not appear to affect performance on tasks, the researchers found that longer breaks did. So if you take a micro break, it's not going to affect you, but if you take a longer break, it will affect you in a negative way. Based on the findings, the researchers suggest that bosses should offer their employees a combination of micro breaks and longer breaks. And we saw that video. And here we have what is quiet quitting. Quiet quitting rejects the idea that work has to take over your life, and that employees should go above and beyond what their job description entails. Okay, I do what is expected for me, and if you want me to do more, you should respect me and pay me for that time. Within reason. I think most people obviously don't mind doing an extra bit, of course, from time to time, but making that kind of expected is going to create resentment. And when people resent doing it, they will then start quiet quitting. Okay. Interesting. How is it in your country? Are people beginning to do this? Is it dangerous? Depending on, it seems that this is something that a lot of the generations are doing, from older people to younger people. It's not just the younger people. But it'd be interesting to know what you guys think. And let me have a look here. Quiet quitting trend has surged in popularity in recent weeks. Thousands of videos about the practice appearing on TikTok. So if you're wondering, cutting the working day to 5 hours temporarily improves employee productivity. So it does seem that sometimes cutting work time down does improve productivity. My feeling is, living in this country, I feel people are working too long. The productivity cannot be sustainable at working late into the night. I don't think you can do it. And the result of this is called burnout. When you burn out is your body and your mind become exhausted, and you can become unwell. You can become sick, ill. So people get burnt out. It affects their lives. It affects their well-being. It can't be good for you. That's quiet quitting. We'll hear more about this in the future because it is quite common. And let me see if it says here. Experts and company CEOs have found working 5-hour days can improve productivity and boost overall wellness, as it is the sweet spot for when focus starts to dwindle. Okay, how many hours are you working a day? So that would be if you start work at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, take a break, 2. So that's up until 3 o'clock. That's the sweet spot. After that, you're tired, you're not focused so much. Do you agree? Let me know. And the idea stems from the study of music training that inspired 10. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. It's too long. Thank you guys for joining me today. That was quiet quitting. We'll look at it again in the future. Get your opinions. I hope you have a great Monday. Remember, if you're here, obviously in Spain, tomorrow's a day off. So maybe many of you are already off anyway. Have a good one. And I will catch up with you in a couple of days' time. So take it easy. All the best.